Welcome to Playaz Korner, where you do what you do. Being brought to you by you know who, your man Rob. This week, we're interviewing Coach LeVelle Moton, head basketball coach of the men's team for North Carolina Central University. He's done a great job with the team, being involved in the community, and actually, that's where we get to go today in discussing his off-court life, a little bit about how passionate he is. So, everyone, let's take a little moment and let's talk with Coach Moton. Moton, I thank you for taking this time today to meet with me. What you've done in the past has definitely shown for the community and for the school. And for those, what few people who don't know about you, if you could just give them just a little history about yourself.
Oh, wow. LeVelle Moton, born in Boston, Massachusetts, relocated at a young age to Raleigh, North Carolina, attended Inlow High School and North Carolina Central University, and had the fortune to play basketball here, and even the great fortune to play professionally. Played overseas for some years and transitioned into public school where I became a teacher and a coach, and it's led me on this journey back here.
That's all right. So share with me your period of time that you've been here with the school, some of the things that you've done not only in the school, but in the community.
Wow, it's been so much to name. You know, I established my Veil Cares Foundation, and I just pretty much, to generalize that mission, I just wanted to help children and families in at-risk situations, whether it be through education, through sports, through fitness, through technology, whatever I can do to provide a helping hand. I come from humble beginnings, very humble beginnings, Main Street projects, and I think it's what many people consider to be rock bottom, right? And, so most people say they come from nothing. I don't say I come from nothing. I didn't come from money. I don't come from nothing. The most important things I learned in that environment that I'm extremely thankful for was the teachings from my grandmother and my mother, right? The things that money came by.
Sure.
The integrity, the discipline, the commitment, the respect, the truth. Those things that money came by, but everyone respects. And, when you're rock bottom, you get a full view while you're down there. And, from a younger age, I got a full view. So I was very much aware of the challenges and trials and tribulations that people endured. And I always said to myself, when I'm in a position to help, I'm going to help. So
sure,
we've been fortunate to do that through Back to School Community Day. I think it's going into its 18th year, where we're providing everyone with book bags, school supplies, haircuts, and games and free food. It's a great day for the community where over 1,000 people come out. We have a Teacher of the Month program. Teaching is a thankless job. And if I ask any human outside of your family who had the biggest impact on your life, you're going to say probably a teacher or a coach, right? And so, sure. But those teachers and coaches don't ever know that, right? They just impact you and continue with the next crop or the next wave of young people. And so I have a Teacher of the Month program where we go into the school system and we surprise these teachers with gift cards and certificates and just a thank you, for what you've done and poured into our young people, right? They're not paid the most, and they obviously should be paid more. But I don't care who you are or what you are in this world. You're only there because of a teacher and a coach, outside of your parents for the most part. And so we have that program. We have a food drive, right? People are hungry out here. Like it's tough times, it's challenging times, and it's difficult times. And so I've partnered with the food bank throughout the years, and we fed the communities of Durham and Raleigh.
Sure.
The Single Mother Salute, that's probably the most near and dear to my heart. We honor 150 mothers in the triangle for their hard work, their dedication, the sacrifices. I'm in the process with my business partners, Terrell Midget and CJ Mann, before Raleigh Raised Development throughout the years. And we just did it, man, because we saw our communities, the landscape of that community changing. And the history was no longer being preserved, right? And there were so many people who maintained that community when no one cared about it. And then we started hearing about this word gentrification. So we decided to form our own business plan to build affordable housing back for our community. So by 2027, we'll probably have built 1,000 units affordable housing. Right? So I'm really proud of that, including my old housing project, which is underway now to go vertical with it now, and that'll be done hopefully in September, somewhere around there. So it's just been a blessing, and I just think that's why God put me on this earth. He blessed me to be a blessing like this. So.
Sure. Let's speak back about the school itself. You have so many young men that you cultivate on the court and off the court. So what do you instill in them?
You know, just the principles of manhood, right? When you look out in this world right now, man, you know, I just take it upon myself. Every day it's people on social media complaining about whatever, right? Social media has become this hub of hatred. And, you know, it's women complaining about men and men complaining about women and so on and so forth. And like, I'm not into that. I just always tried to be the change that I wanted to see. Unfortunately, that God allowed me to coach basketball to pour back into young people and use this game just as a metaphor or a life lesson to teach them the principles that they're going to have to encounter, right? Those trials and tribulations that they're going to have to encounter. Sure. And you do that by giving them the principles of manhood. Listen, at the end of the day, nobody cares about your feelings. And this world is not going to care about your feelings. Sure. So once you leave these hallways of this insulated university in this 4-block radius, it's a real world that awaits you out there. Sure. And nobody's going to wake you up to go to class. Nobody's going to care, right? You do whatever you want to do. But do know that this world only cares about winners, right? That's all this world cares about. Sure. Winners. And the losers, they kind of compartmentalize and put them and place them over there. Sure. And so I'm just trying to give these guys the principles of manhood, you know, the toughness, you know, because this world is about 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you respond, right? And so it's not a whole lot of, and I needed, you know, the principles of manhood, you know, myself, because I didn't grow up with a father, but I got them from my coaches. Sure. I got them from the guys on the corner and sure, whatever it was. I just had to surround myself with men so I could conduct myself like one and be a productive citizen in this world. And, you know, I didn't, again, I'm from the project, so I didn't see a successful marriage, right? I didn't have a father, so I didn't know how to raise a family. So I'm grateful that basketball allowed me to go through the same emotional roller coaster to acquire those principles of manhood. And now it makes me a better husband, makes me a better father, sure, makes me a better coach, makes me a better leader, makes me a better head of household, makes me a better businessman, makes me just better, right? Because the same things that you got to apply in basketball, you got to apply as a father and just.
Those will lead to my next question. The things that you endured throughout life, from the wins, the challenges, what exactly have they taught
you? Man, it's been so much. You know, I think at a young age, my grandmother taught me that every situation that you're going to go through, everything that you encounter is going to be a lesson and a blessing that comes out of that situation. Sure. Regardless of how toxic or turmoil it is, right? And it's up to you to find the lesson and the blessing. And that's why having faith in God is super important. It's been super important to me because He's always been my rock, my foundation. And when you have to bear that cross and you're unable to bear that cross, you better know where to turn to. And so for me, that's what my mother instilled to me and my grandmother. That's what they instilled to me. It's just my faith. And, you know, once you have your faith, whatever situation you encounter, because it's inevitable, right? You're not going to be immune to the situations. Whatever you encounter, some at your personal affliction and some indirectly, you just have to encounter. Once you have God as your source, you're able to get through. Right? And so that was the first step, you know, with me. But, you know, I just learned so much, and I'm still learning. You know, just as a kid growing up in the projects, you know, I learned that this world does not care about you, and it's not going to feel sorry for you, right? And You know, it doesn't matter if your father has left. It doesn't matter if you're living in the projects with rats and roaches. It doesn't matter about the crime or any of those situations, right? I just learned that this world genuinely is not going to care about you and not going to be concerned. So if you expect any apologies or empathy or sympathy from that, sure. It always amazed me that, you know, we only had 3 channels, and my mother always watched the news. And from 6 o'clock to 6:18, the news was like some of the most toxic, depressing things that you could see. And it pretty much came from our neighborhood. Sure, I was like, wow, this is crazy. When these guys that they're talking about get institutionalized or incarcerated, when they are released, they come live in our neighborhoods. Right? It's the same criminal element that everyone else is scared of. We scared of too, right? But it's just we don't have anyone rushing to our defense or our security. So I knew it was on me at a very early age that if I wanted to get my mother and my family out of the housing projects, I knew God had blessed me with the talent and wherewithal and the ability to be able to do that, right? Because I once read a statistic, and this is so true in every project across the globe. You know, if a kid or a child is born into poverty, chances are 3 generations of his family is going to remain in poverty. So we lived on one street. My grandmother lived on the other. My great uncle lived on the other. My great grandmother lived over there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like who's going to break that cycle? Sure. Who's going to break that generational? I don't want to call it a curse, but who's going to break that generational shortcoming? And so I just felt like that responsibility was on me.
Sure. So, Coach, the last thing I want to ask about is your dynasty, your name that's put to this program. What is the things that you want people to remember about you as far as on and off the court?
Glad my room great. You know, I'm forever thankful for this university because it gave me the opportunity to get a free education, escape, you know, my circumstances in that environment in which I come from. Because I just know, in 40 years of my housing project existing, only 6 kids went to college. Right? So I already knew, look, man, if you don't go to college and you don't get out of here and you stay here, especially for another year, chances are, man, like you're going to be another casualty of the system that everyone else got caught up in. And I didn't want that. My mother didn't want that. And it's so much of a credit and testimony to her because she's the one who raised me and stayed on me. And she pushed me to a vision beyond my present set of circumstances. So once I got here, I realized, you know, it's very interesting. I told someone the other day, you know, pressure is not necessarily a bad thing, right, in life. Some people shy away from it, and some people run away from it. I tend to run to it because my mother dropped me off at Chitley Home. And I'm the baby of the family, so I've always been the one that got the special treatment. Okay. But as I'm walking into the dorm, she told me, I said, all right, Mom, I'm about to go. I love you. I got my bags. I'm walking. I'm a man now. Okay. She rolled down the window. She said, she said, I love you too. She said, do me a favor. When you come home, bring a little bag. Don't bring a big bag because I'm going to take care of it. Oh, man. And I was the first one in the family to go to a 4-year college. And what that said to me was, look, man, I don't know nothing about this college thing. Sure. But you got 4 years up here. You better handle your business. Right. Because you're not coming back in my house. Matter of fact, I'm making your house a green room. Sure. Your room now is the green room. Sure. Like, so it just put me up on notice, man. And I'm so grateful for the pressure that she applied. And, you know, it was just external pressure at the time. TLC had a song called No Scrubs, right? So every girl around here was singing No Scrubs. So you couldn't talk to a girl, right? Unless you had your stuff together, or unless they saw, or you could convince them that I got my stuff together. So that pressure was good, and it made not only myself, but a bunch of men, young men in that situation, it made us men because it made us upgrade our status and better ourselves. So we loved it, man. But as far as North Carolina Central, man, I've been extremely blessed to not only play here and be an assistant coach here, but to return as a coach. And you know, it's people talk about, I have the most wins as a player. I have the most wins as a coach. That stuff don't matter. I just always felt like I was a caretaker. And the first thing I ever did when I got on campus, I went to sports SID at the time, Mike Wilson, God rest his soul. And I told him, I said, let me see the program of the all-time winning basketball players and who has the most points, etc. And I studied that program.
Sure.
And I said, I'm going to pass this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy, this guy. So I knew if I did that, I would be in the breath of some greats, Sam Joneses and all of those guys. But it was strategic. It was very strategic. And, this place has been, like a second home to me. Sure. And it's everything. And I just, whatever people say about it, that's their decision. And that's their job to talk about my legacy, not my job to talk about my legacy, because I just always just kept my head down and put in the work. Right?
Gotcha.
Wherever it landed, it just landed. And so I just hope people respect it at the end of the day. And, my kids get to walk in that gym and see Moton's name up on it. Right? That's something that I didn't have the opportunity to witness because I didn't have a father that, provided me with a last name to give me a jump start.
Sure. Well, Coach, I understand also, speaking of good times, that one of your favorite shows of yesteryear was Good Time.
Yes, sir. I don't think I ever missed an episode.
Sure.
I've seen that so much that by the time someone walks in the door in the first 2 minutes, I can tell you what the episode is.
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Winona.
Mm-hmm.
There was a cast member. She adopted a little child named Penny.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to see how well you know who that person was. What was her actual name?
Janet Jackson.
You are. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, again, thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
No problem.
And your fans to follow you everywhere.
Thank you.
And on behalf of one of my affiliates, Fainting Goat out of Greensboro, we have a gift for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And with that gift, where you've been named the GOAT.
Oh,
all right, and a little gift from them so you can enjoy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sir.
This is dope. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Everyone, thanks for tuning in this week. That was a really great conversation with Coach Moton about how passionate he is about life, family, community service. Great guy. So everyone, stay tuned in for next week's episode.